Hello! You're listening to episode 7 of 8 Minute Movies, Knives 8, a podcast talking about the 2019 movie Knives Out in 8-minute chunks, presented by me, Kieran, and him, Peter. This is a sequential podcast that contains massive spoilers for Knives Out, so you should go and watch it first before listening, and start listening to the podcast with episode 1. Yeah. How you doing, Peter? How you doing? How are you doing?
Oh, God.
How?
I'm doing all right, I guess.
Okay.
I feel under pressure to explain my mental state to you. It's I've been doing all right. Remember the other week when I said I just haven't been that felt the need to that urgently play Thimbleweed Park?
Yes.
I feel like I mentioned that during one of the podcasts.
Yes, we spoke about Thimbleweed Park at the same time we did our patented lengthy digression about Monkey Island.
Yeah, well, I've changed my mind, but just because I haven't got any recent adventure game references from Ron Gilbert since the old days. I was like, maybe I should play a recent Ron Gilbert adventure game and see how I find it, even if this one isn't necessarily in a style that I'm particularly overly interested in. So I've started playing Thimbleweed Park.
As I recall, I played it as well, but like when it came out, so 5-ish years ago now, I guess. And as I recall, you start off playing a person who then gets murdered. Have I spoiled the start of the game for you?
No, that's really right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's not. I was gonna say I remember that being like the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
which is an interesting start.
There's a lot of hopping between different characters in this. I've controlled, I would say, at this point, 4 or 5 different characters, I'd say.
Now, I can't remember, can you hot swap between a bunch of different people?
Sometimes, although sometimes you're playing a specific character, it seems.
Yeah, I remember it using that thing, what we first saw in Day of the Tentacle.
Yeah, I suppose it's from Maniac Mansion is where it originated. Yeah.
Sorry, by we I meant me.
All right.
I tried playing Maniac Mansion, but it's too old.
I played a little bit of it because you can play it on the computer when you're playing Day of the Tentacle.
That's exactly where you for some reason they included the previous game entirely within the sequel.
And Maniac Mansion, I suppose, informs the visual style of this game. Definitely how the characters look. Anyway.
Can I just say informs the visual style of is probably the most pretentious thing anyone said on this podcast today.
Is it? I don't know.
I agree.
I feel like it's a perfectly fine thing to say.
It's a perfectly cromulent phrase. I don't disagree. It's just it makes us seem like we know what we're talking about, which is certainly a rarity that the listeners around here will appreciate.
I just mean it looks a bit like it. That's all.
I agree. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that, you said it in a proper fancy way, and it was like a treat, for the listeners. Because if I'd said it, I'd have been like, looks like that, innit?
I'm sorry. I'll dumb my speech down from now.
No, please continue to bring your scholarly appreciation of the topic.
Thimbleweed Park looked like Maniac Mansion.
Why must you be like this?
It seemed like.
Oh Christ!
Yeah, it's it looks a bit similar.
It does. It definitely. I would go as far as to say that the visual style of Maniac Mansion really does inform the visual style of Thimbleweed Park. And I would say that. Yeah, but obviously Thimbleweed Park has access to a better color palette.
Yeah, and it benefits from that. I still don't know that I've never really been into that style of character with the kind of rectangle heads.
Yeah, they look like Funko Pops.
Yeah, but I think the backgrounds are really nice
Mm,
in Thimbleweed Park. I think they're really well done, and I've enjoyed parts of the writing, I would say, but it is very self-consciously
yeah.
a throwback game, and I
Mm.
don't think that that's always in its favor. Uh, in its defense, it does have a checkbox in its option, which is something like annoying in jokes, which you can turn on and off to vary the level of which at which you get sent those. But
I don't think it had that at release.
I think even when you turn that off, it's quite heavy with the kind of referencey stuff and the winks to the camera. You're like, remember the old adventure games? This is like those. And I don't know that I need that
Mm.
in my life. My life. I think it's supposed to endear you to the game by reminding you of the old games, but I think it only kind of just reminds you of how much time has moved on since there. And I think it would do better just by kind of trusting its own atmosphere and its own world a little more and just running with it a bit rather than constantly going, hey, the adventure games, they're here.
Yeah, I mean, I played it, but I think we discussed it briefly the other time when we were talking about Monkey Island. But I don't have the same nostalgia for that specific brand of point and click adventure as it's looking for. I mean, my experience in the genre has been from like Full Throttle onwards, where they are condensing verbs down into little tiny things, like
Yeah.
a tiny list of things, so you don't have to obviate the rhinoceros or something.
Mm-hmm.
um because let's face it, all the verbs are just a holdover from text adventures, like
Yeah.
where you actually wrote stuff down and it did it then.
Yeah, and over time they've kind of figured out that the only things that you really need in adventure games is like an inventory of items and a use verb, basically.
Yeah, inventory and use. I was
And that
I was going to
like
say pick up, but that's just use. That's just a different use.
yeah, it's just a different sort of use, really.
Mm.
There's maybe edge cases where you need a bit more than that, but not enough to overclutter the interface in the way that they used to do. And I think that most people who are involved in designing adventure games have sort of come round to that
Mm.
way of thinking over time, and I agree with that.
Yeah, the newer ones definitely feel a lot more fun to play, like with the simpler interfaces.
Yeah, it's just it just streamlines it a bit and just doesn't have you wondering if you're not in one of those weird edge cases where turn on is a useful verb or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, the puzzles in this in Thimbleweed Park so far have been they've been decent. I've been able to work out most of it so far.
Mm.
I've enjoyed some of the characters; they're quite fun. The writing in it is quite fun when it's not being overly
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
yeah in that way. But I quite like it. I'm intrigued by the story. I'm interested in where it's going, and I think that now that this kind of thing that is really consciously a throwback is out of Ron Gilbert's system,
Mm.
he's probably going to do less of that in Monkey Island,
you,
and I
you,
think he's already hinted that he'll do less of that.
you think he needed to get it all out?
Yeah, I think he just wanted to write something that was just very heavy on in the throwback territory, and I
Mm.
think both having done that, but also having Dave Grossman as a writing partner on this, I think they'll keep each other in check a bit more, and I think it's going to be better for it. So it's made me in a funny way, it's made me a bit less wary about um the next Monkey Island, because I feel like, okay, they've done this now, that these things that they've done in this game, they'll be less tempted to do in a Monkey Island where it doesn't really belong. It's a different kind of atmosphere in Monkey Island, and you don't want it to get crowded out by just in-jokes. So, what about you, Kieran? How are you?
Went a bit Canadian there. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm currently having a bit of a spring clean, throwing away old stuff that is just cluttering my area.
Okay, your media area.
Currently, yeah, I'm quite hemmed in by books. It's mostly books. I looked at some books and I was like, these books are books that were given to me as a child. I've never read them. Why are they still here? What am I supposed to do? Hold these books until the day I die? Is that the deal? So no, the books are all. A man is coming to collect the books and take the books away, where they will be rehomed or recycled if they're just garbage. That's the book deal. But you know how it is when you're tidying and you find stuff that you were super into a long time ago, and then you get a bit derailed. Or is this just a neurodiverse thing? I don't know at this point anymore.
I don't think I've really been in that situation because I haven't had to clear out very often, but I can imagine it. Yes.
So I discovered my collection of Choose Your Own Adventure books, and oh boy, have I been picking my way through some of those?
Yeah, I had a couple in my day. Yeah.
Oh, they were my absolute favorite as a child. I could spend, I don't know, hours just sitting there flicking through, trying different things.
Now, are these the kind of original branded kind of choose your own adventure?
Yeah. I got a lot of those as hand-me-downs from my brothers and sisters, and I don't know why I pluralized them actually, because I've got one brother and one sister. But yeah, so it's a big supply of them. A lot of them were published before I was born, but they're still fun to flick through. I think my favorite branch of it is like they went away from the Choose Your Own Adventure and came up with the Time Machine, which is just Choose Your Own Adventure except in the past. They pick a point in the past. And the one that I've been leafing through idly in spare moments at the moment is it's called Sail with a Pirate, where you travel back in time and you join the pirate's crew. And I think you can choose to be a good person or a pirate. I can't entirely remember. But it's just so dumb. I love it that as you turn through, when you go through the time warp, that you turn over one page and they've drawn like a big swirly circle over the two pages.
Wow.
And that it's like you are now traveling through time. And I'm like, wow. And then you turn the page.
The immersion.
I know, right? But I found out that they've all been republished on Kindle, all the Time Machine ones.
Okay.
And I'm like, how does that work? I mean, because flipping to a page is easy-ish with a book. It's fucking nightmare on a Kindle.
Can't you do links on a Kindle?
You can do links. I haven't got one yet, and I'm tempted to buy one just to see if they've done it properly, which is to like use hyperlinks to jump about from page to page.
You'd hope so.
If they'd done that, then yeah, that'd be great. All they need to do is figure out a way of reintroducing the thing which all seasoned Choose Your Own Adventure book users know, which is to that you got to keep your finger in the previous page. So when you go to the next one, you can see if it was a terrible disaster, and then just go back to where you... Right. This is save scumming, but for books.
Yeah, absolutely necessary. I had a handful, I think, of Choose Your Own Adventure books when I was growing up, but they were never like that. The original kind of line of Choose Your Own Adventure books. They were just other brands of that, and annoyingly, the only one that I really remember fairly clearly is this one that I had where you manage a football team.
which
And
which well-meaning but lacking knowledge about you as a person relative bought that for you, do you think?
look, I feel like at the time that I had it, I was not yet at the age where I had firmly decided that I was not and would not be into football. So I remember whiling away some time with this, and
Mm.
there was a dice included with this one. This is one of the ones where there are roles involved, so it's not just choices, and you would recruit different people onto your team, and they all had their own cards which had stats on them and things like that. And you, depending on how you did in the various matches, you'd end up going up and down in the league, and you'd have to try and win. It was sure a good time for a budding football enthusiast. But I'm sure I had other ones as well, and I'd have zero memory of any of the other ones except for this football one.
What a weird choice. I wonder why that's the one your mind is fixated on. See, I've just picked another one up out of the crate, and this is definitely one that I was super into as a small child. Make your own adventure with Doctor Who: The Search for the Doctor. The year is 2056, and the Doctor is trapped in toroidal stasis by arch-enemy Omega. But help is at hand from the Doctor's old friend Drax and K9, and you. Now open the covers and join the Doctor in an adventure through time and space. What's toroidal stasis?
I don't know. It sounds painful.
It definitely did teach me the word toroidal, meaning like a toroid. Oh, fuck.
Any other lovely finds?
Lots. They are of extremely varying quality, these choose your own adventure books. Some of them, like the choose your own adventure branded ones, were generally pretty good and pretty well put together, but like some of the knockoffs are just like a random thing happens. What do you do? Turn to these different pages. But there were two reasons actually I wanted to bring up these choose your own adventure games. Well, three reasons if you include the fact that I saw them recently and we were desperate for opening content for this podcast.
Yes.
Spoilers. The reason number two is that something we'll be talking about later in the podcast. Ooh, hashtag waitbait. We're using it. That's we are in fully intending to replace the word foreshadowing. I don't think this. I think foreshadowing is too grand a term for whatever we use it for.
Yeah.
But the third thing is I'd like to talk to you, Peter, about War with the Evil Power Master.
War with the Evil Power Master.
War with the Evil Power Master.
So they've started turning old choose your own adventures into board games, haven't they?
They have, and I fucking love it. I am fully on board for this shit. It's self-indulgent AF, but I'm here.
So we started playing a different one a while ago, and it was very cool. But I think the disadvantage of it is that it's fairly linear. It takes a while to get through, and the plot seems to, at least so far, follow a fairly linear path where you solve one bit of the plot and then you go to the next bit of the plot and you carry on in that fashion.
Yeah.
But we recently played War with the Evil Power Master, and in that one, I think the nice thing about it is that it feels like we might be able to play it a number of times without doing too much repetition.
Yeah, I think they looked at the feedback from the first game, which was that basically, while it's fun, you can only really play it 2 or 3 times because there is a set path all the way through it. So whenever you deviate from that path, like, is it spoilers to talk about this? Like we found a path that led to a death, and so now we know for any future playthroughs that we shouldn't go down that path.
Right.
But War with the Evil Power Master has more randomization aspects to it. Like there's 9 different planets, I think. And at the start of the game, you randomly go to one as your first, and then you get to choose which planet you go to next. So, you could there's definitely a lot more play-through-ableness. That's a word.
Replayability, I think, is what people generally call it. But yes,
I think if you check, they're using play-through-ableness now.
it's good. You have like 9 planets, something like that. At least a good number anyway.
Yeah.
And you, I think we only visited like 3 of them or something like that in our first playthrough before getting towards the final showdown, and it only took a couple of hours to do that. So it's more of a kind of nice one-off experience that you can retry and get different sorts of stories. I mean, the stack of cards that you're reading the story off is quite thick, and we only did a pretty small wedge of that.
Yeah. Plus also, you have characters. There are 4 different characters, and you collectively control them, and they have different specialities. So you get to decide who does what challenge, and that alters the outcome.
Yeah. And there's special things like there's items that you can only get on one planet, which might help you on another planet. And
Right.
So there's like certain kind of edge situations that you're probably realistically fairly unlikely to encounter. But when you do, that'd be very satisfying, I'm sure.
Also, it comes with at least 4 different endings. So, you know that hopefully you're not going to get exactly the same thing as last time when you reach the end of the game.
Yeah, that's right. So we saw different final showdown chapters, all called something pretty amusing, but I can't remember any of them off the top of my head. So yeah, even when you do get to the end, it's not necessarily going to be exactly the same. It's very good, very well designed, and the writing in it is very kind of tongue in cheek and comedic.
I want to track down a copy of the book it's based on and see if the writing is the same or whether they've punched it up a bit for the modern audience.
Get the impression just from the sorts of things that it says that this was a very 90s one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of the characters you play skateboards and can say radical. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh dear. That seems like enough procrastination. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Let's stop putting this off any longer.
No, I suppose we should round it out by saying I really enjoyed their recent, choose your own adventure games, and I really hope they make like a 3rd and a 4th one.
Yes, if anyone involved is listening to this by any chance,
they are.
Make more of these.
Yeah, keep going. I've bought both of the other ones. I'll buy the rest. Okay, so this is a podcast, as we discussed earlier, where we take the movie Knives Out. We've broken it up into 8-minute chunks, and we're going to talk about those chunks. Also, for some reason, we have bells. Peter, ding your bell.
Ding.
There you go. If any of the kill phrases is uttered during this episode, out or thing, yes, for historic reasons, then the bell is dinged or dung, and we lose points. And at the end of the season, we add up the points.
Now, I'm going to stop you there because it's occurred to me that in the last few episodes of this, we've been very bad at noticing.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it, but I thought we have definitely done none this season.
Yeah, I mean, I did a couple early on, but since then it's been very dry. I think we both need to up our game for this episode.
Yeah, no, we've got to try. I am hindered somewhat in the fact that I I lost the bell.
Mm.
But what can I use to improvise a bell? Hang on. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay, that's not good enough. I tell you what, I will simply say ding loudly like a fucking imbecile. And
You do whatever your little heart desires.
that's me. That's me set. I will just say ding like twere the 19th century.
All right, Kieran, distract me with some sort of topic.
What would you like to hear about today? Don't know why I give you a choice.
I'm just going to say Jamie Lee Curtis until it's right.
Okay, let's not talk about the thing. Jonathan James Cake, born 31st of August 1967, is an English actor who has worked on various TV programs and films. His notable screen roles include Jack Favell in Rebecca, 1997, Oswald Mosley in Mosley, 1997, Japheth in the NBC television film Noah's Ark, Tyrannus in the ABC miniseries Empire, and Detective Chuck Vance on the ABC drama series Desperate Housewives. I don't think he was in Knives Out.
No.
No. I think I'm reading him to you because we got hung up on actors called Cake last week.
Yes, because of the actor that is in this, right?
Are you thinking of Kay Callan?
Yeah, Cake Allen.
It's nobody. It's called Cake. Listeners, if you know anyone called Cake, hunt them down. Hunt them down and stop them at once. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Jamie Lee Curtis, shall we?
Yes.
At last. Let's not talk about the thing. Jamie Lee Curtis playing Linda Drysdale. Jamie Lee Curtis, born November 22nd, 1958, is an American actress and writer. She is the recipient of several accolades, including a British Academy Film Award, 2 Golden Globe Awards, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Curtis made her film acting debut as Laurie Strode in John Carpenter's horror film Halloween, 1978, which established her as a Squeam Queen. Fuck me. I was so close. So close. I looked at it and I thought, don't say Squeam Queen. And then I said Scream Queen, which established her as a Scream Queen. Peter, you might recall John Carpenter from
I do.
From season 1 of this podcast.
Yes, but that's not what I would know Jamie Lee Curtis from.
Really? It would. Well, I mean, aside from Knives Out, what would you know her from?
I don't know. You'll have to explain to me because I've definitely seen her in things.
What?
I just don't know what.
How am I supposed to know what you've seen her in?
Well,
All
I
right,
mean,
hang on. We're gonna get into the big list of things she's been from in now. So shout if you recognize any of them.
I mean, that's the system, right? You presumably weren't just going to name that one thing that she was in and say,
Yeah.
"Well, that's Jamie Lee Curtis."
Yeah, she was in Halloween and like
Right.
a whole bunch of other movies.
Right.
Anyway,
Mention them.
I'm gonna. She appeared in a long string of horror films, including The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train, and Road Games. She later reprised the role of Laurie in the sequels Halloween 2, Halloween H2O 20 years later, Halloween Resurrection, Halloween, and Halloween Kills. Halloween is like from 2018. It's not a reboot, but it's just one of the, when the series has been going on so long that they get fed up and they drop the suffixes and they're just like, Halloween's just Halloween. I think Halloween 2018 is like the 13th Halloween film or something.
Okay.
And Halloween Kills is the sequel to that.
Well, I think I've seen one of them at your house, maybe.
Probably the 1978 Halloween.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. There's a riff tracks of that. It's pretty good. And she's also in Halloween Ends, which comes out later this year, probably on Halloween. They usually do.
Makes sense.
Her filmography is largely characterized by independent films that have been box office successes, with 8 of her lead actress credits grossing over $100 million.
What has she been in that is not a horror film?
All right. Well, I believe the list continues. Would you like me? Would you like to know more?
I would.
That's a Starship Troopers reference. We'll keep it like modern. I think I first encountered her in horror movies, but she has been in a lot of things. So her film work spans many genres, including Trading Places, for which she received a BAFTA, A Fish Called Wanda.
There we go.
She got a BAFTA nomination for Best Actress for A Fish Called Wanda. She was in True Lies, Blue Steel, My Girl, Forever Young, The Tailor of Panama, Freaky Friday, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, You Again, Veronica Mars, and Knives Out.
I've seen some of those films, is what I will say.
All right. We don't judge. We don't judge people here. Is one of them Beverly Hills Chihuahua?
No, I've never even heard of that film, I'm afraid.
I've heard of it, but not seen it, for which I consider my life to be improved.
Yeah, let's just not do that next season.
Oh, wow. We have been talking about doing a film that we just fucking hate.
Yeah, that neither of us have seen or expect to like, and just thoroughly researching it and watching it excruciatingly slowly over a period of weeks. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to spend our time.
Look, this podkind is already like a borderline cry for help. Especially from the fact that I called it a fucking podkind. What is a podkind? Listeners, if you know what a podkind is, stop. Stop sending out the messages that interfere with my brain. Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis. She's married to Christopher Guest, with which she has 2 adopted children, Annie and Ruby.
I didn't know that.
Due to her marriage with Guest, who is the 5th Baron Hayden Guest in the UK, Curtis is a baroness formerly entitled to the title Lady Hayden Guest, which she does not use. She has written numerous children's books, with a 1998 release, Today I Feel Silly and Other Moods That Make My Day, making the New York Times bestseller list, and she is a frequent blogger for the Huffington Post.
I didn't know most of that stuff about Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, that's why the Wikipedia article that I just read verbatim starts with "and writer."
Look, on one occasion, I had the Wikipedia page open at the same time that you were doing your summary, and I realized how close it was to the Wikipedia page, and it kind of spoiled it for me, so I don't do that anymore.
Well, look, what do you want me to do? Completely write an independent bio of all of these people? Do you want me to call them and see if they'll come on the show? Because they won't.
I want you to have
that.
a little bit of fucking self-respect is what I want.
Look, I'm just saying, Wikipedia is there. You can use it as a primary source. Don't care what your teachers say. You could just put Wikipedia in the citation and it's fine. No one will notice or care.
All right, kids. If you're listening to this podcast for educational advice, then I can't help you.
Yeah. No, what you're supposed to do is go to Wikipedia and then find one of the cited links on Wikipedia and use that. And then nobody checks cited links. Nobody cares, as long as it's not obviously wrong. As long as you don't link to IMDb or Wikipedia, they're fine with it. Whatever you say is fine. That's academia.
I feel like we're drifting ever further from the scope of this podcast.
I think it should be clear to the listeners by now, 3 seasons in, that the scope is just whatever the fuck we want to talk about for 45 minutes, and then some vague waffle about the movie we've chosen. Oh, I just saw the bell. Huh. Never mind.
What, did it fly past or something? Like, what?
I just noticed it, but it's too far to go and get it. You'll have to deal.
Did it just crawl past like on the back of a mouse or something?
It turned towards me and it said, "Kill me."
It's perhaps been inhabited by a hermit crab.
Why must you insist on judging me like this? I mean, I just noticed it. It didn't like hover by of its own accord like it was chalky. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just something about the way you said it that made me think that it would. You just fleetingly spotted it, and it's gone off on its way again now. Never mind. You'll catch it next time.
I saw it as it was being pulled out of the airlock into the cold void of space. Like, oh well, never mind. We'll pick that one up on the salvage run. So if you're quite finished, it's time for us to start watching the episode.
All right.
Now, last time, we asked you, if you're seeing this for the first time, who do you think is the murderer and how done it? And you said same. There was no particular change last time. You still think it's Marta with the medicine.
Yeah.
Which is fair because we have just watched that happen.
Yes.
And you said, what happens next? There's exploration of the outside grounds, shenanigans with a bit of broken trellis. They're going to try and get the CCTV video, and Marta will try to sabotage that and her footprints. So I'd say you're 75% right this time.
Yeah, so we do start to see some of this stuff towards the end of this segment, but there's a little bit of a conversation that happens beforehand, which means we don't get to all of it.
Yeah. All right. So now it's time for us to watch minutes 48 to 56 of Knives Out.
Yeah.
Marta starts to panic, and Fran and Meg take her out of the room to calm her down. Meg asking Fran if she still has her stash. The room here, which of course, as we established in our previous game of, is this a set or a real location? Was like a real place. And they had a priceless tapestry along one wall. So the production team made a little paper sign just out of, the camera's line of sight that said, this is like 400 years old. Please do not touch it. just to make everyone be constantly aware that when you're moving those cameras around on the dollies that you shouldn't be smashing up all this precious stuff.
Do not rip the tapestry.
Yeah, oh my god. I know movies do this stuff for veracity, but when you hear about them accidentally breaking something that's important for cultural or historic reasons, you're like... I'm thinking specifically of Kurt Russell and the guitar from The Hateful Eight. Do you know about that?
I don't.
Oh, so they were lent a guitar. Like The Hateful Eight is a Western story, and we maybe mentioned it when we were talking about The Thing, because it's basically The Thing if The Thing was a Western.
You have mentioned it. I do want to see it for that reason, actually.
Yes, it's a really good movie. It's very gory because it's a Tarantino film, but still very, very good. And they were loaned like a guitar that was something like 250 years old to use as part of the production. And during a scene in the movie, like one of the actresses is playing it, and Kurt Russell grabs the guitar off her and smashes it. And the prop master messed up. So Kurt Russell didn't know that the guitar she was playing was the real guitar, rather than the destructible prop. So he grabbed it off her and smashes it, and there's a look of genuine horror on her face that is not acting, because she knows it's the real guitar rather than the fiberboard replica that was supposed to be smashed. And yeah, it was this huge mix-up, and they kind of crapped out on the explanation. So they called up the Martin Guitar Museum, who are the people who lent them the guitar, and told them, it was broken in an accident on set, and just not specifically what happened. The guitar was 145 years old, and they got like the cash value of it back, but they were like, oh, it was a priceless artifact which is just gone now. And now we'll be a lot stricter on loaning things to film productions, which is kind of bad as well. It's just
Yeah.
a horrible thing for all people involved. And it was just like a genuine accident. But I really wish it hadn't happened.
Mm.
Oh, where were we before we went into this lengthy digression?
I don't know. We were probably
Tapestries.
you were talking about tapestries, which is
Mm,
related to you were talking about the room that
yes, the room.
the drawer with the clock is
Not
in.
the not the Johnny Wiseau film, though. We will never talk about that.
Mm.
In another room, Meg takes joints from a drawer under a clock, lights one, but says they're all too old and dry to use.
I wonder whether this little stash area will come into play later.
I thought I had some notes about the clock, but maybe they come up later. Elsewhere, Walt shouts at Nana if she'd like some dinner, but Linda says she's already eaten all the salmon spread already.
And you get the feeling that the family doesn't really give Nana any credit or respect at all.
Yeah, it's the way he talks to her is a bit. He's like, do you want anything for dinner? To eat? To eat?
I mean, she knows what food is.
Yeah. Kay Callan does an excellent job of playing Great Nana, but she doesn't really get lines.
No.
There are she does say some stuff definitely, but it is entirely off screen.
Yeah, she has a couple of very important lines. But...
Yeah, just one or two ones, but she seems to have all her wits about her.
Yeah.
Just she's quite old. Yeah, my note here says they don't treat Great Nana too well, do they?
No.
I do like there is an excellent line in the like one of the first episodes we did of this where they're like Great Nana was there as well, Harlan's mother, and like, Harlan's mother, how old is she? And they're like, nobody knows. Meg arrives to fetch him to talk to Marta about what they'd all spoken about. Walt enters the room with Marta and says the family has decided to take care of her, which means giving her something financially to support her.
Mm. And like, you see this bit, and you're like, okay, I guess it's a nice gesture. Like, you'd think, but also a kind of easy one. So they all believe themselves to be rich or about to be set for life, and giving his carer a little stipend. Is that the word? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is it's not necessary. They don't have to do it, but it's also not gonna be difficult for them
No.
in any way, and it becomes immediately undermined when he then does the same line about was outvoted about the funeral.
Yeah, that whole I thought you should have been at the funeral, but I was outvoted line kind of doesn't ring true anymore now that 2 out of 3 people have said it.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And I think what you were saying, about them deciding to give Martha that money, I think they all kind of see themselves as grand philanthropists,
Right.
even though they aren't really. You don't find out how much they were going to give Marta, but how much would you think it was going to be?
I mean, they say take care of, which is vague. That could just mean that could mean entirely make sure that she's free of financial worries for the foreseeable future, or that could mean that they're gonna give her a little something.
I reckon they're going to give her a couple of grand. That's where I'd be at because they're about to receive what is essentially limitless wealth, and they all sort of see Marta as beneath them, even if they don't think it. out loud, so to speak. They all do from their actions, especially Richard.
Yeah, she's only part. She's only treated like part of the family when that's convenient.
Absolutely. Also, we get another shot of the Harlan picture here that's slightly different from last time.
Oh, I didn't notice the difference.
Later, Marta leaves and walks out onto the darkened patio. A lighter strikes in the darkness, surprising her. Blanc is sitting in shadow, lighting a cigar. This little scene is a homage to Apocalypse Now, apparently, which I saw so long ago I don't specifically remember it, but sure, okay. He does seem like the sort of person to sit brooding in the dark, waiting, doesn't he?
Yes, definitely.
They talk about the case. How Blanc knew Harlan. He knew his father, a police detective, and his father respected him. And that he still thinks something is afoot.
It's an odd little detail about his father, I suppose. Here, I never really kind of picked up on it before when I've watched it, but yeah, I guess that's interesting. I don't know why they would feel the need to make that connection, considering that it ultimately doesn't really have anything to do with the story. Is it just supposed to be a red herring?
I don't know. I think it's more just to give Blanc some emotional investment in the case, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Because, Harlan was a friend of his father's, and now he's dead, and maybe he could do something to prove that this wasn't just the suicide that it appears to be, Okay. Do we want to argue with internet nerds, all right?
Right.
Okay. Do we want to do that? Is that what we want to bring to our lives?
Sure, let's do it.
Do you think him saying afoot is a reference to the fact that he knows that Marta's got blood on her foot?
I mean, I would say no, it's just a coincidence, and it's just because later he calls Marta Watson, and it's more about that.
Yeah, I reckon it's more of a Sherlock Holmes thing than a foot blood reference, but fine, whatever.
That's what I would say, except that he also mentions feet again later in this scene, so maybe he is hinting at her with little foot references in a playful sort of way.
Does he? I don't remember the second.
He says something like the answer falls at his feet.
Feet. Oh, yeah, he does, doesn't he? Oh, dirty little fucker. He mentions that Harlan's detectives dig like truffle pigs, but he anticipates the terminus of Gravity's Rainbow. They talk about Gravity's Rainbow, a 1973 Thomas Pynchon book that nobody has read. Have you read it?
I haven't, but I've heard the title.
I haven't read it, but I've heard the title. I heard it on The Simpsons. And then this. The Pulitzer Board described the book as unreadable, turgid, overwritten, and obscene.
Well, I am going to continue to not read that.
I know, right? Blanc agrees that nobody has read the book, but he likes the title, which he likens to the arc of a murder mystery. Blanc will talk more about arcs later. Foreshadowing. No, wait bait. That's it. I called it the right thing instead of the wrong thing. Fuck.
I think when we do it, it's wait bait, but when a film does it, it's foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Good. Blanc says the medical examiner wants to close the case as a suicide, but he's convinced Elliot to keep it pending for 48 hours. It's 48 hours in movies, I was thinking about two other movies, 48 Hours and Zootopia. Like, they're all, anytime there's a cop thing involved, it's like, you've got 48 hours, McKenna dear, or I'll have your badge and your ass.
You're not a script writer, are you?
No. I have tried it. They keep turning me down for some reason. He would like Marta to help him investigate. Blanc tells her that he's a machine that unerringly arrives at the truth, and that she has to arrive tomorrow at 8 to help him investigate.
I feel like he definitely knows that Marta is involved somehow. And we, looking in from the outside, can kind of guess that he knows that at this point, just from his whole attitude. But I also think that he is being genuine when he's kind of expressing his belief in her kind of good character as well.
Right, yeah.
So he must already suspect that there's more to this story than just she did it.
Right. Ryan Johnson mentions they're doing the Columbo thing here, revealing who the killer is early on and attaching the detective to them while they figure it out. But if you can make it seem like the murderer was in the right, then the relationship is inverted, because now the detective is an antagonist, even if they're a sympathetic character. So, yeah, we like Blanc and we like Marta, but at this point, we definitely want Marta to win more than Blanc.
Yes, we want her to get away with it at this stage in the story.
It was just a simple mix-up, you know?
Yes.
Later, Marta arrives home where her mother is watching Murder, She Wrote, dubbed into Spanish.
Fair enough.
The episode she's watching is Who Threw the Barbitals in Mrs. Fletcher's Chowder from 1998. And it's about a dinner party where someone at the dinner party gets murdered.
Well, I guess it's poison.
On brand.
Fairly appropriate.
Marta sits down on the sofa, and her mother pats her back reassuringly. The camera slowly zooms in on her as we flash back again in Marta's memory. Harlan says he knows there'll be something he's missed, but that she has to do what she has to do to beat it without losing her soul. He pushes her out of the room, and she spends a few seconds agonizing on the stairs before coming back inside and saying that she has to help. So she gets some good expressions here, where she lots of different things go past on Ana de Armas's face while in just a second or two while she's outside in the corridor. I'm like, oh, it's really good performance of someone who's agonized about exactly this situation. I mean, if you push me into this situation, I would be flummoxed as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's the problem that she ultimately ends up with is that there's not really any decent alternative apart from going along with the plan that he's put together.
No. Harlan, lying on the distant couch, tells her that if she does everything he says, everything will be just fine, and he slits his own throat.
Oh.
He's got tears in his eyes. Did you notice that?
I didn't really notice it. I guess thinking back at it, I can see it. Yeah.
So this is something that got edited a lot to get the PG-13 rating. Originally, they wanted like a splash of red towards the camera, like something abstract rather than like a big gush of blood, just to show that the blood, flew some distance.
Yeah.
But that absolutely was not going to fly with any of the rating boards.
Right.
So they just left it completely as it is.
I guess that this moment needed to happen in order for the blood spot to be explained. But still, this is a fairly cold thing for even Harlan to do. Just do it right in front of his friend.
Yeah.
Who is already in distress.
I mean, his last words are something along the lines of, if you do it all, if you just do what I say, everything will be fine. So, he's still thinking of her as he kills himself.
He is, but he's also even acknowledged himself that he'll definitely have missed something, so she's going to have to think on her feet a bit. So it's not like in the bag.
No. Marta stumbles back out onto the stairs in shock, sitting and panting with tears in her eyes. Ryan Johnson says this is his favourite bit of Ana de Armas's performance. And yeah, she really does knock it out of the park with all of these little scenes.
Yeah, you get her just really shocked, but also trying as quickly as she can to compose herself because she knows she's not going to have long to start doing all of this stuff that he's just kind of chucked her way.
Yeah, she's got to go enact the plan.
Yeah.
We leave the flashback back to a thoughtful-looking Marta sitting on the couch. She holds hands with her mother as the camera zooms in on a tiny blood spot on her shoe with a dramatic sting. Oh no!
It's a good sting.
Yeah, it is really good. What is that? Is that like a violin? You're my music guy.
I heard violins in there. I heard brass in there. Definitely, there's kind of a falling brass on the last note of that. It's good. It's effective.
I like it a lot. I also noticed that in my notes I wrote there's a tiny blood spoot, and
you did. I wasn't going to draw attention to it, but since you've said it, I had a little giggle when I saw that while I was looking through the notes.
Blood spoot.
Yeah.
In my defense, the keyboard on my laptop is broken and will sometimes double up letters for no reason. So it's really fucking annoying. Blood spoot. The next day, in the morning, Blanc, Elliot, and Wagner wait by the gatehouse as Marta arrives.
All right, so we finally get to the bit that I was predicting that we'd start getting to.
Yeah, there was. I think you missed a little bit of this bit where Harlan is like, "I will not have thought of everything. Let's, just wing it. You'll do fine, champ." Blanc whistles for her to come over, except that it turns out that Daniel Craig doesn't know how to whistle. But luckily his bodyguard Mike can. So, and in this shot, the microphone is 3 feet off the camera to the left, recording his bodyguard whistling.
How's your whistling?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't think I can whistle either. I thought about it because I accidentally made a whistling noise when I sucked in some air, and I was like, is that how whistle? And I was like, no, that's not how whistle.
Well, I can only istle. Sure, istle. I can only istle backwards.
What's istle backwards?
You know, by breathing air in rather than blowing out.
That's what I just said. That's what. Yeah, I accidentally whistled while breathing in sharply, and I was like, ooh. But
I can whistle perfectly serviceably, breathing air in, but outwards, really unreliable. I'm not very good at it at all. I've never got the hang of it.
Go on, give us a little inward whistle.
So inward whistle. Not brilliant, but it works.
That's pretty good. Like, yeah. No, that's just sucking. That's slurping. No, sorry, I haven't got it. I thought I had it for a minute there, but I've lost it. I can only suck and slurp.
Yeah, but outwards, I can rarely do a thing. Sometimes I get a little peep of a whistle, but not anything more than that.
You know that the fucking movie quote where it's like, oh, you know how to whistle, don't you? You just put your lips together and blow.
No, there's more to it than that.
Yeah,
there's a whole
there's a knack to it that you haven't explained.
Yeah, and I've never acquired it. I think that basically I stopped once I realized I could make a whistle sound by breathing in instead of out. I was like, okay, job done, fine, I'll just do it like that, and never really investigated how to do the other way.
Well, honestly, I look forward to learning how to whistle because I learned how to click my fingers when I was 21, and now I can do it really well all the time.
Look at you go.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I don't hold it against Daniel Craig. Some people just don't know how to whistle. It's fine.
Statistically, from all the people we've surveyed, 100% of them don't know. Well, okay, well let's include Mike. So 75% of them don't know how to whistle. So
yeah, and honestly, in jobs in which you might be called upon to whistle, actor is really high up the list. So it's an unfortunate problem for Daniel Craig, but has rarely affected my life personally.
Maybe that's why he keeps Mike on. Honestly, this conversation is the longest I've talked of or thought about whistling in several decades. So it's not a day-to-day skill for me.
Well, let's stop it.
Yeah, let's do that. Inside, the old groundskeeper talks about the history of the estate as he puts up photos on his fridge with a large magnet.
You see, this whole bit is going to be difficult to talk about because it's going to be referring to things that are about to happen, but haven't happened yet in the scene, and the 8 minutes are up before those things happen. Which is a real flaw in this format, if you think. No. It's so I think the magnets are going to be used, and that's what my prediction is going to be later.
Oh, okay, well, the magnets have been on screen, focused, shown to us all.
Yeah, they've been drawn attention to, and I think at least one of those magnets is going to get a little bit of use in the near future.
I mean, you can just say what happens. I mean, we've spoken about this being a spoilery podcast before.
Yeah, I was just trying to make it a little bit tantalizing. That's all,
Tantalize with your weight bait.
Yeah, no. Marta's gonna grab one of those magnets and put it in her pocket so that she can use it to erase the tape.
See, now we don't have to mention it next time.
Mm.
The groundskeeper here calls the absolutely ancient VHS and monitors modern technology, which is really funny to me. he's saying in the olden days I used to just 50 years ago I patrolled the perimeter with a gun, and now we have all this modern technology, and they are just like they are museum pieces by like today's standards.
Yes, I think. Well, is he? Because his job isn't really that defined in.
He's their security guy, I guess.
Because I doubt that he like tends to the grounds or anything like that. He's just the security guy. So I think that this is someone that absolutely has no business still having a job here, but Harlan has very kindly just decided to keep him on because the job he does is fine, and this way he gets to keep a job and have a comfortable life.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well, as we will learn that the house has not been with the Thrombies that long, so they kind of picked this guy up with the house, right. I guess, and just kept him like a bookshelf or something.
Yeah, they very easily could have just replaced him and the equipment with just some modern recording equipment and just something that's very automated, but he's chosen not to do that.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a foible of Harlan's. Marta looks at the screen here, and we hear Harlan echo in her head saying, to avoid being seen, pull off the road after the carved elephant. She pulled off the road before, not after or before. Yeah, so Marta realized she's in trouble here, I think.
Yes, that will definitely come into play in the next episode.
I was going to say, it would be weird for anybody else to know exactly where the CCTV coverage of their large mansion house stopped, but probably not for Harlan. Like this, like knowing exactly where the CCTV blind spots are for a murder is like right up his fucking alley.
Yeah, it's probably just something that he's idly thought about.
Yeah. So the groundskeeper here is called Mr. Proofrock. I don't think anyone addresses him by name, but he's in the script. And he is one of two characters from the movie whose names are homages to a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Wow, it's all coming back round.
I know. #waitbait, we deliver. And it's book number 9, which is called Who Killed Harlow Thromby?
Do you have it?
I do, yes. Although I did buy it for this.
Okay.
I didn't. It wasn't just like happened to have it. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have noticed before now.
It's called Harlow Thromby. I never knew this.
Now, Harlan Thromby is obviously Harlow Thromby,
yeah.
And Mr. Proofrock is named after a detective from the book called Proofrock.
All right.
The book also centers around the death of a wealthy man whose extended family are all potential suspects. You know how I jokingly talk about what we're going to do for the Patreon every episode, right? I
Oh,
legitimately think we should start a Patreon and just play through this book
listener,
as exclusive Patreon content.
let's ask the listener. Listener, would you pay us money
Yeah,
to play through a choose your own adventure book?
only has to be £1 a month. That's £12 a year.
If you give us, let's say, £5 in a month, you can make a choice for us.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say I'm like 75% serious with this idea. let's talk about it later. But that's definitely why all the preemptive talk of choose your own adventures.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
if
feels
we
like
play it, it's just going to be us dying a lot.
it feels like it's probably not the best idea to just conceptualize and uh, begin a Patreon while recording a podcast.
We'll talk about it after the show.
Yeah.
Um, Mr. Proofrock is here. Is of course played. Do you recognize him? Before I say his name.
I don't recognize him, no.
He's played by M. Emmett Walsh, who is a very famous character actor. He has been in so many films, it would be very troubling to list them all.
Because when you said do you recognize him, I was like, I mean, not specifically, but I also feel like I might have seen him in things, and that makes sense.
I
Now
mean,
that you've mentioned that.
my go-to for him is that he is the sheriff from Critters.
Okay, I don't know that.
He's being played by Emmett Walsh, but the role was supposed to go to Ricky Jay. Do you know Ricky Jay?
No.
Unfortunately, he died during early production of the film, and what they did to acknowledge this was that the thing on the fridge next to where he's putting up the thing is a photo of Ricky Jay with a shotgun, which I thought was very sweet.
Oh, he played the Cosmic Owl in Adventure Time, Emmett Walsh.
Ricky Jay is a probably one of the best sleight of hand artists ever. I know him from card throwing, where he was so good at it that he could throw cards and like chop candles in half, like cut out the flame on a candle, that kind of thing. You know, and he was just really really good at it. And apparently a very entertaining guy, just in general. Which is why they wanted to get him on the film, but unfortunately he passed away.
Let me ask you a question that you can research for the next.
We haven't had one of those for a while.
Episode. It's a bit of a long shot whether you'll be able to find this out or not.
Mm.
But did Ricky Jay teach Bill Murray how to throw cards in Groundhog Day? That's what I want to know.
I will look that up, but I suspect the answer is probably yes. I know him from Mythbusters, where he was trying to teach them how to throw cards so they could build machines to throw cards.
All right.
Apparently, M.M. Walsh is a delight to work with. When he turned up on set, he'd hand out little random gifts to people. He'd give them $2 bills, steel pennies, and copies of his resume. And the people on the director's commentary were laughing because people would inevitably come back to him with whatever he'd given him and say, "Could you sign this for me?" And he'd be really apologetic and says, "I can't, because then I'd have to sign them for everybody else." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean, actually." If you're constantly handing out these little presents to people.
Huh.
He wanders over some ancient video equipment, explaining he'd kept the tape from last night and that he usually erases them with a magnet.
Now, does he say a magnetic degausser? I feel
he
like
does say a magnetic degausser. This explanation of how VHS tapes worked seemed a little weird and over-expository to me, but then I realized it's an explanation for people who don't know how tape works, and now I'm old. I was like, oh yeah, oh Christ, soon the grave.
Yes.
He explains that he recorded it SSLP, which means nothing, as far as I can tell. VHSs had different recording modes, which doubled the amount of stuff you could record onto a tape at the loss of like some quality.
Yes.
And SLP, or super long play, or extended long play, seems to be the longest one. It is terrible for the tapes if you want to view them a long time afterwards, but for CCTV, it's probably fine.
It's super long play, isn't it?
Super long play. I just assume he got it wrong. What's that? How does IMDb put that? Mistakes possibly deliberate by the filmmaker, or IMDb is really useful, but I also sort of hate it. As you noticed while we were watching this, the monitors here are that they're watching the videos on are old monitors from Tandy TRS-80 Model 1 computers from 1977.
Oh, they're computers, are they?
They're computer monitors that have been repurposed as video displays because, you can do that with, it's just a CRT, basically.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
What does TRS-80 stand for, Peter?
Terminal.
I'll give you a clue. I already said one of the words.
Screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's television. No, because they're supposed to be computer monitors. Technological.
Technological.
Technological. Radical screen.
It stands for Tandy Radio Shack Z80, which refers to the Zilog 80 CPU inside it. I know I don't like giving you fuel for your weird rants against me as a person, but while spring cleaning, I have found 7 Zilog Z80 processors, which I've been assured is more than many people have.
It's more than I have.
Yeah, it's a statistically aberrant number of Zilog Z80s. Marta watches the live feed and realizes she should have pulled her car off the road after the carved elephant. Marta, come on. It wasn't be after 4 after all. They start watching the tape that Marta puts into the player. And that's it. That's where we end. They start watching it.
All right. I mean, not a great cutoff this time. Given that all of the stuff that this scene sets up is going to be resolved in the next episode, but at least this time it wasn't right in the middle of a sentence. So we're making progress. Good work, Knives Out.
Yeah. I think that was quite a good episode. I do enjoy the little aside with weird Mr. Proofrock. M. Emmett Walsh is, I guess was one of Roger Ebert's favorite actors. And he went so far as to say any film which has M. Emmett Walsh in it can't be entirely bad.
Oh, there you
which
go.
Is very sweet. I like that. So that will bring us nicely to the end of the episode, I guess. So, Peter, we're going to ask you them questions, what we ask you. If you were seeing this for the first time, who do you think is the murderer and how done it? Are you sticking with Marta and the poisons?
I think we have to stay there for the moment.
All right. I'm going to jot that down the same as last time. Now, what happens next? I think you've already mentioned the degaussing.
Yes, so we're going to try and erase the tape with the help of basically a fridge magnet. I don't know whether that works. That's an interesting one. You'll probably tell me next time, though.
Yeah, I will. I know the answer to that, but I'm not going to tell you right now.
And then they're going to wander back up to the house, and that's when they're going to... Marta's going to go over the footprints and everything by seeming just to not hear that she's not supposed to do that. And then there's going to be the discovery of the little bit that broke off the trellis once they're back up at the house. And So that's probably going to take up most of the next bit.
Okay. So, what are you thinking? What are you thinking of the movie so far? We are very nearly halfway through.
Yes, it's kind of a relief, I guess, to wait a minute. Before we started recording the podcast,
Be after 4.
before we started recording the podcast, I said we were nearly halfway through, or we were just about halfway through, and you're like, nowhere near. Haha, you fool, you cretin, and now you yourself are saying that we're very nearly halfway through. How dare you?
Well, I was I was doing it. I was doing it actually to gaslight you a little bit, and I'm glad that you picked up on it. A lot of this podcast is me gently playing with your mind.
Anyway, I am enjoying it. You get a sense of relief that there's less information to pay attention to at this point, especially when you're having to take notes on it all for a podcast.
You're telling me.
I mean, before I was getting so lost in particular details that were coming up that I was just missing the rest of the stuff that I wanted to write notes on as well, and it was really difficult to pay attention to it all. Now, having a much easier time of it. I'm glad from all angles that it started to slow down a bit, and we're settling into this kind of slightly new kind of story where we're rooting for the killer. Apparently,
we've moved into the Columbo phase. So, listeners at home, if you have any comments or questions, you can email us at podcast@8minutemovies.co.uk. And if you like the show, what you should do is tell a friend or an enemy or someone you're ambivalent towards, or leave a comment wherever you listen to it and say, what a fine podcast is this? Basically, it's the 21st century and you need engagement drives the algorithm, listeners. Engagement drives the algorithm.
I don't really know what that means, but I'll agree with it.
How much of the curtain am I supposed to lift here? You know? Oh yeah, if you would support our Patreon, let us know so that we know whether this is worth doing at all.
Yeah, how many of you would give us, say, £1,000 a month?
No one will give us £1,000. Oh, if you are going to give us £1,000 a month, then do that. If you give us £1,000 a month, we will release 2 episodes a week. How about that? You can have it. If you give us £1,000 a month, we will do an entire season just for you. How about that?
Whatever film you like, any film you want.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
It will cost you about £16,000 though.
Yes. Yeah, we'll stop recording that podcast the moment you don't pay up.
Oh God, I could fix the hole in my roof. The bin bags are not cutting it, listeners. Okay. Oh God. Well, that gruesome thing aside, time to end the podcast. I can be found on the internet at Kieran J. Walsh on Twitter. He can be found on the internet at Kestrel Pie. That's Kestrel like the bird and Pie like the irrational number.
Oh, you said the things right.
Did I do it right?
You did, yeah.
Did Kieran do right?
Yeah, the only thing that you've really failed at is that you should have rung the bell just then when I said that word.
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, hang on. Ding! Haha, I got you, Peter. Now
Too late.
I can go back and comp that in, and the listeners will be none the wiser.
I'll know.
Well, yeah, but you don't listen to these.
All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
Goodbye, listeners. We love you.
Bye.